Good morning, good afternoon to you wherever you're joining us today from across the world. We are back with another episode of the Becoming Magnetic podcast. And today's episode is all about becoming magnetic in every season, how to move with life's many shifts. So, if you're new to this podcast, this is a podcast where we believe that powerful women deserve powerful love lives in every season. And so every episode, we talk about a topic that supports that mission. And so we hope that you can join us in really being able to support other women like yourselves who are powerful in life and are ready to have the powerful love life that they deserve.
That's right. Good day, everyone, wherever you're tuning in from. I'm Rosalind. And as Kai mentioned, today we're exploring the magnetic art of change, knowing when to rest, release, or rise when we're inspired. So, Kai's in the UK and I'm in New York. We have daylight savings time, the end of daylight savings time upon us. And we felt that this would be a perfect time to have this conversation.
Absolutely. The reality is that life, like nature, moves in seasons. And so there are times to push forward and times to just pause and reassess what's going on. But far too often, we expect ourselves to just bloom all year round. And that's just not the reality of life, or as many of us know, of our own experiences.
That's right. Everything has a season. And so then the question is, how do we stay magnetic, grounded, open, aligned when things around us and even within us are shifting? Whether you're dealing with waking up in the dark now or a heavier workload, emotional transitions, there could be other types of life transitions. This conversation is about learning to flow with the changes instead of fighting them.
I know that's one of my favorite things to talk about, how we flow through life, right? Flow with change, and so we'll really be unpicking um, how you recognize your personal seasons and managing your energy through those transitions, and really importantly, giving yourself permission to rest without guilt. So that when it's time to rise again, you can do it with intention and not exhaustion.
And I
So,
know that can be difficult for our high achievers out there.
oh my
And
God.
I mean, I'll include myself in that, always looking to be productive and pushing, but that is, if we pay attention to nature, really not what we're meant to do. So let's dive in.
Oh, absolutely. At the top, Rosalind, when you were talking about this whole clocks going back, so in the UK, where I am, tomorrow there is going to be clocks going back, and we talk about losing like an hour in the day, right? Um, and what always amazes me is that there are times a year when this change is making that you can literally see the difference in the physical environment, just how quickly it gets darker, um, and even how our own energy seems to shift with those longer periods of darkness. And people talk about being wanting to stay a little bit longer under the duvet. And so what's interesting for me is um, we take for granted that we're seeing these physical changes, and our body is telling us that something is different, right? As well, not just the weather though, that it's connecting, it's saying something is different. And yet, rather than really respond in a way that honors what our body is telling us that we need, obviously in a way that's constructive for our lives, we tend to push through it to just think we're being lazy. We should just get on with it because, hey, life be life, and so we have to. And what we're really wanting to encourage you to do is, even as the physical season is changing, and you might be feeling those energy shifts, right? Think about what needs to be different for you in this particular season to be able to honor your body's needs, for maybe just a little bit more rest, for um, whatever those things are. So, Rosalind, I don't know what it's like for you over there, um, in New York, but certainly, as I said, we definitely get those much longer periods of darkness. It gets darker earlier, and I certainly feel the energy shift. We've spoken about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, Kai is giving us the energetic sensitivity, right? What happens energetically. And there's also, I mean, there's science behind this, right? The
Mm,
research has shown that, and we, in preparation for this, we were looking at some material. We saw that, Harvard had published an article mentioning that the changes in daylight affect our mood and energy, and that there is a disruption to our circadian rhythm. And for those who may not have heard of that or be aware of it, our bodies are on a natural clock that's aligned with the the sun, and so all types of activity, um, cleansing of the brain, organ function, secretion of different hormones, those things happen in a cycle throughout the day, the 24-hour day, based on sunrise, sunset, and other factors.
mm,
And so when we abruptly now turn the clock back and attempt to operate in life as if things have not changed, it can be detrimental.
yeah,
And the effects are not just, and people maybe can feel, the week after just a little sluggish and off,
yeah.
but the effects can last for weeks. And some other research has shown that there are increases in visits to emergency rooms, also a higher
Boy.
frequency of vehicle accidents following
Mm,
daylight savings time. So I'm not sure why we continue to do it, but nonetheless, here we are. So
yeah.
personally, in my own um, way to adapt, I bring in some of the principles of Ayurveda, which is the sister science to yoga practice, and adjust the timing of my eating, timing of exercise. I also I've already started to make changes in the time that I go to bed,
Mm,
preparation. So I mean, obviously for those, it's upon you, right? If it's happening tonight in the UK, but we can start to make small changes to adjust.
absolutely. Yeah. Um, and we like to give you the facts and the stats behind these things, because I think sometimes when we have these conversations, we if we're not careful, we speak in a vacuum, right? Um, and we don't believe ourselves. We don't believe what we're seeing for. We don't believe our lying eyes, right? What we're seeing, what we're experiencing. So we like to share these the facts behind it and the science behind it, because what we're in effect wanting to say is, believe your body, believe yourself when you're experiencing these things, that there is validation to it. You're not the only one experiencing it, and we're really encouraging you to think, therefore, if you are experiencing a different level of energy because there is a shift in the physical environment. What what do you need to do with your time, um, your own kind of rhythm, right? Because your rhythm is your rhythm actually has been disrupted. What do you need to do to find yourself a rhythm that's right for this season? So it's not going back to something else necessarily, but it's about structuring a rhythm that suits the season that you're in. And we want to just touch on, we've spoken about the physical environment and how that impacts our own energy. We can see, right? We can feel it. And that mirrors, as we said at the top, what happens in our own lives. So obviously we're here, we talk about relationships, and how you how you can show up better in a way, show up more as you, the magnetic person, right? In pulling the people that you're looking for. Um, and we forget that just like these changes to seasons, we're going through changes in our lives. So, how you're dating when you're in college, how you're dating when you're starting working, um, all of these things are going to look different because they're different seasons. And sometimes, even though we know that the season has changed, we haven't started operating differently to respond to that new season. And so that's one of the first things we want to kind of ask you to think about. Do you actually recognize what season of your life that you are in? Um, and therefore, what's the energy or expectations that would be needed for that particular season? So I know, for example, as a woman that's dating, I dare say a little bit later on in life again, in my fourth decade of life, um, the way I'm dating, especially in this season where I'm also building out a successful business, um, it means that I have to really, really be so intentional about how I protect my my energy, how I'm using that time because I want to make sure that I'm making this business a success. But then I also want to make sure that I'm showing up in a way in the dating world that says that I'm still present, that I really want this. This is not just a add on to my life. So Rosalind, I don't know, for you, what season that you might be finding yourself in and how you're navigating that season of life.
Yeah, I can relate to that as well. Being thinking about when I first started in my corporate role, wanting to do well and prioritizing that and deprioritizing dating, so to speak. Uh, but now, being more established, feeling more confident in my skills and abilities, feeling like I've demonstrated some value, and now I I want to be able to put everything in its right place.
Yeah,
And so it is, if I say it's important for me to find that person who I can partner with and grow with romantically, then I have to put that energy and attention in, which means setting the appropriate boundaries for other things in my life so that I
I
can,
love it.
have the energy and the
Yeah,
time to devote to it.
yeah. And I like that you pulled in this whole matter of putting the right boundaries around other things in your life. You know, recently I met a woman at a conference who she her business was starting to bloom. You know, it's She's working on it. They're at the cusp of, oh, we're really about to, go do great things now. And she said to me, "Oh my God, I really feel so tired." And um, part of me is like, I really want this to be a success. And I also I want to find a partner, but I'm only able to go on a date maybe like every couple of months. So even without my having to say anything to her, I think her just saying it out loud, she was able to go. But then again, that doesn't make sense, does it? Because then how am I going to really find a relationship if I'm only going to a date a couple of months?
Even
And
a couple of months. That's
yeah, right. So we had a brief conversation, and she walked away, recognizing that she really needed to um be honest with herself about where she was at, like what really for the next 6 to 12 months is really the top part in her life that she's going to be dedicated and carving out the time and the energy for, because realistically, if she was going to be in um, a series of sprints that required longer hours, longer days, and then at the end of it, it'll be a bit pooped, as we say here, or exhausted, that doesn't really leave enough energy to be able to focus on other things. So obviously, that was for her to walk away with. But outside of that, sometimes we might even be in periods in life where we're not in full bloom. You know, there are 4 seasons in the typical calendar year across the world. I'm being very careful to say typical. Yeah,
yeah. I
might look a
mean,
little it might look a little different in some parts of the world, but
yeah,
typically you go through that rotation of a spring, summer, autumn, winter, and each of those seasons looks really, really different. There are different things happening. So, if you are in a season where of spring, things are maybe coming to life and blooming for you, um, or you might be in a season of autumn where you're doing more of the pruning away of things, and setting up for that winter period where you might be starting to sow things, where again in spring you are starting to harvest or see the bloom. So be fully aware of yourself to say, where am I in? Am I in this period of stillness where it's restful, it's reflective? And so I might not right now need to be out there doing all the things. And I know that last year, for example, while I was telling myself I should be out there and doing more, and um, I recognized that for various personal circumstances that were happening to me, I just needed to be in a period of rest. I needed that time for me to recuperate, to recover from some of the things that were happening for me. And that is okay. That was completely, completely okay. Now I'm in a season where I'm back in I've done the kind of pruning, sowing, and now I'm back into spring. It's starting to come alive yet. And so the energy with which I'm approaching everything, whether it be dating or work, is so, so, so different. I'm still reflective, don't get me wrong. I'm still doing that thing where I'm assessing before I make a move and so on. But I am pretty much now I'm walking into my bloom season, ready to be out there again. So it really just is as important to acknowledge, be honest with yourself, which season am I in? Where am I at? Does that resonate with you, Rosalind?
it does. It does. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about the example of you know, thinking, okay, in my business, I'm going to be the woman you were speaking with, being in a sprint and relating to boundaries as well. Sometimes we have to ask ourselves, or do we really need to push or like allocate the time that we think we do to the business? Or could something or work or what have you? You know, some things are fixed, but then beyond that, is there an opportunity to be more efficient in that space or maybe prune, you know, to borrow that word, prune something from the plan there that maybe we don't need to do everything there
Yeah,
to be able to allocate some time and energy in another area of life. You know, because
yeah,
sometimes you get to a point of diminishing returns.
yeah,
And I think that's an important question to ask ourselves too.
yeah,
You know, what can we say no to? And then where might we adjust our plans in other areas of life to accommodate prioritizing whether it's ourselves or making a connection with our romantic interest.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. You know, when you think about the you know going back to using that word pruning, it's hey, what needs to go? What needs to be maybe cut away a little bit off? What are we trimming away to be able to do more of what I need in this season? That's really the question because um again going back to being honest with ourselves, um if you are in a period where actually I need work to kind of be taking over, right? Um and it's not one of those situations where I'm in a period of intensity that's is going to require that much more of me, then maybe it is that, as you said, what needs to change there, what needs to tweak there that will open up more opportunity of time and energy for myself. And I know that for many women that I talk to, there is always the concern that if I don't want to be seen as giving less in the workspace, obviously for fear of um, loss of the opportunity for promotion and different things like that. And everybody's situation is unique. You understand fully the context of what you're dealing with. So by no means is this advice from us. Never is. More gentle suggestions to think about what is it that you are. So what season you are in, and sometimes we are choosing that season. So we started with the physical change that affects our mood, right? We don't have a choice over that physical change in season, but we have a choice of how we navigate it, right? What are we doing to restore energy or all those kind of things. Um, but there's sometimes we're choosing the season. Sometimes we're choosing that this is a period where I just want to give more focus to this particular area of my life or that particular area, and it's never quite an even 50-50. It never is. There is a maybe a 20-80, a 10-20-70, whatever that looks like. Sometimes you are the one choosing that season. So the question is, if you're choosing that this is a period where I want to go gung ho, I want to gung ho. I definitely want to make sure I want to pour more into the romantic area of my life. Then that means that in order to be able to have the energy and not be exhausted from everything, you might need to be thinking about what are the other areas that you need um to say no to. And that actually brings something to mind for me because in talking about season, the reality is this, um when it comes to changes in seasons, there are some that are thrust upon us, right? There might be times where um if we even think about this journey about dating, where you might have been in a relationship where it comes to an end not because you have chosen to, but because either the other person did something that required you to go, this is untenable, right? Or they might have ended that relationship. Or sometimes, if we think about this journey of being unpartnered, it might be that you are doing all the things. You've read all the books, you've done therapy, you've done programs, you might have been even listening to us and going, I've tried this, I've tried that. Um, and you're doing all the right things, but still not being able to find the right relationship. So that's another situation where you might find yourself in a season that you have not chosen. So, what's really important here is being able to identify where you are and then determine, what do I need from myself to be able to navigate this period of time. That's really, really, really important. So, we're asking you that question. Do you know what season you're in? Are you in a season of spring, summer, autumn, winter? Is it about the, I'm in full bloom, I'm harvesting? Is it about the period of rest and just enjoying all that's happening? Is it the period of pruning away and preparing for sowing for the next season? That's the question. What season are you in right now? And then when you've answered that question, the next question we have is, okay, so what is what does this season require of you? Yeah? In order for you to meet those needs for yourself, what is it that it requires of you?
Yeah, and I think I want to underscore what you were saying earlier about this is not necessarily advice, but it's calling you to examine what maybe underlying, what beliefs, what that may underlie, like lie beneath the patterns that we find ourselves in,
Yeah.
right? Really to bring that up to the surface, become more conscious of how we're ordering our actions and what's behind them.
Yeah. And just in thinking about that, when I think about the seasons of change that might not be chosen, right? I was I was reading somewhere where it says that when change is forced um upon you, then your power is in how you respond, not in what you control. Um because there can be that sense of a loss of control, right? Just if we think about the example of where a relationship might have ended, whether it be you're selling this person and moving on because of something you've done, or they're ending it. And I remember when I had this is years ago, a particular relationship, I had ended it because, the person had done something that was just like, well, nope, this is irreconcilable. It's time to move on. And it took me so many years to be able to come back from that forced change, that forced season that I found myself in, because I had spent so much time valuing myself through the other person's actions and equating the way I had been treated with, maybe, well, maybe this is how much I am worth. Then, this is all I can attract. This is all I can pull in. Um, it wasn't until I had been really being able to sit up and pay attention to, wait a second, I'm staying longer in this season of the forced change, the feeling like I've lost control because of how I'm responding to what has happened here. And the moment I was able to reframe things, I was able to have an honest look back at the relationship and go, well, I know the person did this, but I also identified the areas where I could have done things differently, as well as when I had seen the clear signs and patterns of things that were just not in line with me, I should have stepped away earlier. And when I was able to do that processing, um, I really genuinely felt like I had my power back. Like I really felt like I was now in control of my season to say, okay, fine, I am now in a season of where I'm on partners again, but I'm walking away feeling much more that I'm in control of what happens next. I'm not just waiting like a sitting duck and like, kind of hoping for the best because, oh, well, if I was treated that way, then I guess that's pretty much the level at which um, I have deserved. And um, I remember there's something from psychology today that talks about resilience training. It says that we can use self compassion to adapt and grow from unplanned transitions. So if you're finding yourself in forced change in a season that you absolutely did not want to be in, then it really is about thinking about, first of all, acknowledging this is where you are, um, but then also really being compassionate with yourself. Really, really being compassionate with yourself, and then thinking about what needs to change. How can I adapt in a way that allows me to navigate this season, right? Until I'm then able to move into the next season that I want to find myself in.
When I think about adaptation, I'm wondering, with the example you shared, and thank you for giving us that, your story with respect to navigating that unexpected change, and it taking, some years, in thinking about like the time it takes us to adjust or bounce back. How did you, I don't know, how did you become aware of, how did you get from the place where you were, still upset, or, wallowing in the sorrow of the change? I'm not saying you were wallowing, but I'm
Oh no, there I was.
to, to be able to beautifully articulate what you did, you know, understanding what was behind that, the wallowing.
Yeah. It's a really interesting question because I think all of those transitions actually took time. So it did take a number of years to come to a point where it's like nothing's changing. I'm still stuck, right, in the same place. And one of the things that made me first realize that is the stories. So, the stories we tell ourselves, but the stories we tell other people. So when I found myself repeating the same story over and over to friends, to family about what had happened and why things didn't work. And I was like, oh my God, this is a stuck record. What? Nothing's changed? And that actually hit me, and I stopped talking about it because I said, I obviously have not processed this well enough yet to be able to speak about this in a different way, because surely since a period of time that had ended till now, something must have changed. I must have changed in some way, right? Um, and so that's what woke me up first when I started to hear myself telling the same stories, and I stopped. So I stopped talking about the situation. I stopped talking about the individual and the impact I thought that they had been having on me, and I started then to process to say, well, if you want the story to change, you need to understand the real story behind what had happened. And I genuinely started to think about the good, the bad, the ugly of what the person did, but then also what of what I did. Because what had been missing from those stories as well was what was genuinely my own part. Like, it was such a one-sided story. And don't get me wrong, the individual genuinely, we're just not the right match. They did do things that were just not palatable, that were just not aligned. But certainly I had been holding them accountable and not myself. And so I started to unpick that story and go, okay, right. So the real story behind this story is this, that one, you had not valued yourself as you should have, to be able to recognize that when you had not been treated in a way that was not in alignment with your values, with who you are, then thank you very much. It's been great, or maybe it hasn't been great, but it's time to go. So I could have done that much, much earlier because I had the clear signs, I had the evidence, I had the information. I could have acted differently. So I had to forgive myself for that and give myself permission to say, you didn't do what you needed to do, but you can do something different going forward. And then I also identified where I had done things that weren't right either. That genuinely, regardless of who that person is and what they had done, putting the shoe on the other foot, I wouldn't have wanted to be treated in that way. So again, I said, okay, right. So going forward, we ain't gonna be doing that again because we don't want whoever comes next um, to feel the way that that other person had felt based on your own actions. So the starting point for me was just hearing myself telling the story. So a good point is, what's the story you're telling yourself? What's the story you're telling others? Are you actually happy about that story? Does that sound right? Because for me, I recognize that if I had been telling the same story forever and ever for so many years and nothing had changed, I did start to question, am I still here because I am allowing myself to remain here? And I definitely was.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, there were so many nuggets in what you shared, but I think the thing that stands out for me with respect to the conversation we're having about seasons of change is that there was a shift in your perspective that had to occur, as well as like alongside that, questioning yourself,
Yeah,
right? Really doing the self inquiry. And as we think about change, which can be quite uncomfortable, many times there's an opportunity to reframe it,
absolutely.
because what's on the other side of that change is in part something that we can decide
Yeah.
and we can create. And so maybe change isn't necessarily the end of something, but freeing you up to step into something brand new, to
Oh,
prepare you
yeah.
for something even greater.
Yeah.
And so, as you shared, right, telling the stories over and over again about what that person was doing, and then the story, your perspective, your understanding of it changing, and thinking, you know what, hey, this is something that I could do to be a better, romantic partner later. That this is insightful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, Rosalind, and thank you for prompting that kind of that 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 opportunity to be able to share that. Um, and I really hope for those who are listening, that you have been able to gain some value out of that. And we always like to, give you practical tools to walk away with or an exercise. So even as we've been talking about change in seasons, and you've heard me um, throughout this conversation, you've heard both of us talk about those seasons. Um, Here's what we'd like to invite you to do, right? Um, we want you to think about your life right now as a landscape. And that landscape of life, ask that question, what season are you in? So, are you in spring where it's new beginnings of ideas and dating again and of hope? Or are you in summer where there's abundance, connection, energy that's just flowing? Are you in autumn, releasing, reevaluating, closing chapters? Or is it winter, where it's about rest, reflection, and rebuilding your inner strength? So, depending on which of those seasons that you are in, we're going to invite you to think about this further. What does this season need from me? Is it more of my energy to show up? Because if you're in that season of dating and bloom, then yeah, you're gonna need that energy. So what do you need to cut out um otherwise to allow yourself to show up more fully in that space? Is it about rest? Because actually, now, you know what? Before I make another connection, I'm gonna need to get myself some rest. And I'm not just talking about sleeping across a weekend, but genuinely reconnecting with yourself. Or is it about letting go? Is it that real pruning process of figuring out what needs to stay behind before I move forward? And then number two, what do I need to leave behind to step fully into the next season? So leading on from that first, and what does the season need from me? What am I leaving behind to step fully into this next season? And lastly, what's one practical thing I can do this week to honor this season? So you've heard us start with talking about the fact that there are physical changes in the environment, the weather, for this new season that's happening around the world. Clocks going back to reflect that, but we've moved even beyond that to say, what's the specific season that you are in? And if you know what season you're in, are you honoring it? What's one thing that you can do to honor it? So we encourage you to, as always, write your reflections down. If you don't have a journal, you've got to get one. You've got to get, if you're joining us on this journey, you've got to get a journal to write the things down that are coming to mind that you can later reflect on. And for those who are listening who want to go deeper, we actually have a free tool that we'd like to share with you. It's called the Season Compass worksheet. So if you'd love to get a copy of that from us, just drop down in the comment section, Season Compass, and we get in touch with you to share that with you. Rosalind, any thoughts from you even as we are closing out?
I just encourage everybody to really take the time to walk through the the exercise that Kai just talked us through, because it's so important to move forward with clarity and intention, to take that time to reflect for yourself. And that's in part, what we're all about here, is helping to provide a different perspective, tools to help you challenge yourself in a healthy way, and hold up a mirror. So we hope that this conversation, and the ones that have come before and will come after, will help you grow. But in particular, for today's conversation, we hope that you see change in a new way, not as something to fear or to dread or to be annoyed with, but as an invitation to grow, to become curious, to explore.
Yes. So, if this episode has resonated with you, we're going to invite you to share it with another woman who's learning to honor her own seasons. And don't forget, we have a magnificent 7-week course called Becoming Magnetic. And if you'd like to join the waitlist and connect with our community of women learning to thrive through life's transitions, then we invite you to click on the link in the description box so you can join that waitlist. But for now, I have been Kai,
And this is Rosalind.
and you have been listening to the Becoming Magnetic podcast. Until next time, remember that every season holds purpose. So stay grounded, stay open, and keep becoming the magnificent, magnetic person that you truly are. Bye.
Take care.